for our September meeting included approval of the fiscal year 2013 dues that we assess to the communities in the Strafford region. And those included, we have a two-part structure, and so we changed the dues based on the population changes, and this year we're not using an estimate, we're actually using the 2010 population from the U.S. Census. And that resulted in quite a large variation in the population for some of our communities. For instance, Rochester went up 1,300 and went down 1,300, and Dover went up 1,100. And in some of our smaller communities, the population fluctuations were in the mid-200s to the 300s. So given all that's transpired with the towns preparing for their budgets and budget committees and calls that I've been receiving from budget committees, I would advise this commission that we need to maintain the actual 2010 population using the 2010 U.S. Census, but I'm recommending that instead of doing the second part of our dues, which is a per capita rate, instead of increasing that, our per capita rate is tied to the CPI rate for June to June of each year for U.S. city average. And so what I'm recommending is to reverse what you approved in September at your meeting and to look at going back to our fiscal year 2011 per capita rate, which would be a 4.5% reduction in the dues going out next year. And I think this is far more reflective and responsive to the situations that our municipalities are facing this year, and it's something that you need to consider. So I've just done this in the last, since I got back from the conference I attended last week, and I've talked to several communities that have been calling in and asking questions, and I've read in the paper, and I've been watching the Durham and the Newmarket town councils, struggle with setting their rates and working on their budgets. And I've talked to our other officers, Lou, and to Tom, our Secretary Treasurer today. And so my sense is that we need to reflect the fiscal reality of our communities, and we need to reverse our increase and go back to the fiscal year 11 per capita rate, which was the same for fiscal year 8, 9, 10, and 11. I might have that wrong. It might just have been 9, 10, and 11. But that is my recommendation. The situation is that we need to get these letters out because the municipalities are doing their budgets right now, and we're getting calls in almost every day now from the communities. So I've talked to the officers today about this, and I'm bringing this forward. It's not on the agenda for tonight, and it needs to be on the agenda. So I'm just advising and trying to get a sense of the commission. And if there's a sense of the commission that we should go back to our fiscal year 11 rates, then I can send the letters out and say this is a pending rate, and that it would be officially approved, any revision at our January meeting, where we can fully advertise and meet all requirements of the right to know law. But we can also advise our communities so they can go forward with planning and ask us additional questions about this. So that's where I am. I'm seeking a sense of the,
I think the letter should go out with the old rate,
with the
11 rate.
the 11 rate.
2011 rate.
Okay, that does, I can pass this around to people, and we do have the rates. By doing this, it does create a decrease for every community. And so if there are any other questions or comments, I'd be glad to hear them. But this evening, I would just like to have a sense of, I feel very strongly that we need to do this, and I know it's not on the agenda, but I feel so strongly about this, and being, keeping with the times and the decision-making, the very tough decision-making that's happening in our communities. And like John mentioned, I'm terribly concerned about the poorest citizens in this region, and the food banks and heating and all the other issues that our towns and nonprofits are going to be addressing. So.
Another question, Cynthia. I noticed that the difference in the total dues collected is about $5,700.
Yes, it's 4.5% difference.
How much will that have any impact really on staffing or your ability to deliver services?
No, we'll make it work.
I mean, it's not a significant amount.
No, and this
budget.
past year, the total amount was, I think, about 123. So it's still even smaller percentage decrease. So,
Right.
yeah. But the difference is that if you can see in the fourth column over the change in population, that's where some of these smaller communities that had large percentage increases over 20% or close to 20% in their population were really receiving a very large impact. And these are some of our communities that are most fiscally constrained.
Are you currently collecting dues from all the communities listed on this sheet?
No,
Okay.
no. There are 5 communities that aren't paying dues.
I think it's necessary to, Mr. Chairman, Ed, I think it's necessary to answer Cynthia's, it wasn't a question, but a statement regarding whether or not this can be considered tonight under other business. It's been my experience that when you have a meeting and you put other business on the agenda, that covers other business that may come logically and correctly come before the commission. So I believe this can be discussed. Pardon?
I agree with you, but yet, when you talk about other business, you know, we have this on our warrant article town meeting each year, and you say, what else is on there? Well, it can be just discussion. You can't say that you fully notified the people of what you're going to do, and so if there's a few sore heads in the community, they're going to say that action you took was not fully advertised ahead, and so therefore it's not valid.
That's right.
I'm not saying anybody here would do that, but you know, when Cynthia mentioned that to me, I said, well, we could say here that we want to send we'd like to have the intent of this group, and I'd say we could say, well, we should direct the executive committee at its next meeting to look at this and officially give their stamp of approval to follow the process that we've done before. There won't be any question about adequate notification to all the member towns and so on. And then the executive committee would send it back to this board. Was that January? Was that January?
Yep.
And that may be overcautious, but I've found that it's better to be a little overcautious than look like we're bulldogging through. I know what you're saying, and most people probably wouldn't have any problem with it, but we got a couple sore heads in a couple towns that say they're, you know, behind the scenes they're manipulating things here and not letting us know beforehand. that we could notify our rep to be for it or against it. I'm sure this proposal now that we show all the towns having a negative rate, I don't envision very many towns are gonna send anybody here to tell us not to do that. But we also want to make sure that nobody criticizes the process. So that's my thought on it.
Okay, and if that's the case, then can Cynthia, would, the board then should be considering authorizing Cynthia to send out a letter, an advisory letter, indicating that the intent of the, offering the intent of the board, but not, and then indicating that that will be actually voted upon in January. Is that, would that be?
We've got some revisions here.
Right.
And we want all the people in the towns that they can notify you and me and the rest of the reps here on their thoughts on it. I'm sure, and in my town, I will not hear anybody challenge that. I don't think very few of your towns are going to challenge it.
I don't trust that the other one.
Can you put in the letter, Chairman, that for your planning purpose, we therefore recommend if you use a revised number?
Yeah, that's what I think we'd be saying. First of all, as a group here, we're the main group. Do we support revising and using that schedule? So I think I'd like to have a straw vote here. Who's opposed to revising this?
We need a
Which is
motion.
essentially the
He's taking a straw.
Hmm?
He's taking a straw.
huge changes, but would be negative for all communities. And is anybody opposed to that?
I'd like to see the Patriots.
So I assume all of you are indifferent, or you support that strongly. And since you haven't challenged that, I interpret that as supporting it strongly.
That's accurate.
So that's the word that we need to send to the executive committee. Most of us around here already heard it, so.
Right, but there would be a letter going out.
Yeah, we're
It
going
would
out
be-
now advising them, that's what's going to
Yep.
be proposed for January.
Yep.
And I think pretty well we can say that the executive committee will support that because we get the majority here supporting it right now. So I'm just laying that as a step in there saying we fully follow the procedure.
Well, thank you very much.
Okay, any other business? If not, then we're always ready for,
I make a motion.
that's your motion.
I would like to thank Ed, who's been filming these for us, and we had a lot of good comments about the filming of the Gasset and what a really good process that Gasset hearing was, and so I really appreciate that you've made the effort, and tonight, I'm fascinated by this topic, and I hope everybody else is excited as I am about what we can do in Strafford County and region, so thank you for making the effort.
Did we make a motion on that advisory letter, or we're not doing that?
It was a straw vote.
We discussed, okay.
I have a question. Where are these?
It's on the site, Government Oversight, spelled O-V-E-R-S-I-T-E. Government Oversight.
Move for a motion?
Already have a motion.
Motion's on the.
You want a second?
A second.
All those in favor of the motion to adjourn, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those who don't want to adjourn, say no.
Okay, can we have a meeting Monday at 8 o'clock?
Office hours? I'll just stop by and pick up the